Hello, everybody, and welcome to the WREVA Electrifying News. Oh, I forgot to look up the number. I don't know what number it is this month, but we'll get that in post-production. No problem. No problem. So welcome to the show. This, of course, is April 2023. Knew the date, at least. At least I knew that. And joining us, as always, we've got Mr. Ian Graham joining us from downtown Kitchener. How are you today, sir?
Hey, Leafs won last night big time.
And he didn't get booed. That's a plus.
Booed.
That's a plus. Yes. Yeah. Yes, indeed.
It was an exciting game to watch. It was good to see. Unfortunately, our Kitchener Rangers are out because of the London Knights. I've had a few friends already rub that one in. It's too bad, but thus is the season.
That's the season. Exactly. Yeah. Also joining us, we have Mr. Eric Stevens from the Listowel area. How are you today, sir?
I am surviving, Mark.
That's good. That's good.
I would say that I probably had one Corona too many in Mexico, and now I've caught the Corona. So.
Oh, no.
I Corona.
Oh, well, we wish you a speedy recovery, and obviously it's not too bad because you're joining us tonight.
Yep, I'm here. So
very good, very good. All right, Ian, let's roll the slideshow.
All right, so here we go. April electrifying news for WREVA. First up, we're seeing more money being spent and conversions happening for the Oakville plant from Ford.
Exactly. Now this story leaked quite some time ago, but we didn't have the numbers that many months ago. And it was just announced that the Ford location in Oakville, Ontario, will be actually spending about 1.3 billion US or 1.6 billion Canadian on a modernization of the current Oakville assembly plant to be electrified. They're going to be putting in, of course, new machinery, new lines, so that they can produce electric vehicles starting sometime in 2024. Actually, they're saying the modernization is starting in 2024. They're not actually indicating when the first vehicle would roll off, but I would imagine it would be shortly after that, so maybe a year within that, maybe 2025. But this is, and it also depends, of course, on receiving battery packs from a new plant that's being finished off in Kentucky, the USA. So this is going to be the assembly plant of vehicles here in Oakville. They'll be taking parts from around, putting them together and assembling them in Oakville to be finished vehicles to be shipped off to Ford dealerships. So this is a great sign. Again, we're beating this drum almost every time we do one of these podcasts. There seems to be new investment happening each and every day. And actually, I'm going to add another one in that I just heard on the newscast this evening, and that, of course, is Volkswagen. Has the amounts that the government is putting in have been actually announced. 13 billion the Canadian government has inputted for Volkswagen, but I won't go into too much depth there. I'm not sure if either of you two have one of that in your stories. I hope I'm not stepping on anyone's toes.
Yep.
But it's again another investment announcement in this case both in Ontario. So we're certainly looking forward to this, and I hope more of it happens. I hope we can keep on reporting this month to month.
Yeah, this Ford plant in Oakville has been continuously a very successful, very productive plant for Ford. So that doesn't surprise me that they're making these investments into the facility. And basically, Ford did announce this in their strategic plan a couple years ago that they plan to convert Oakville into an EV manufacturing hub. Of course, back then everyone was like, "Oh, 2024, that's forever in the future." Well, now it's coming up pretty quick.
So, that's next year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So now it's coming up pretty quick, and now Ford has put money where its mouth is, and they're making the investment. So
yeah,
good to see.
Yeah, exactly. So, and of course, Mark, as you mentioned, I saw that as well on the news tonight, as well as it was kind of rumblings about it yesterday as well, with the 13 billion being given to Volkswagen. And it's great. I mean, part of that news was to say that the St. Thomas area did have an automotive manufacturing spot there that got closed. So this
In fact,
is now,
it was a Ford plant in St. Thomas previously.
Made the good old Crown Victorias.
Yeah, that's right. And so now, again, this is more opportunities for that community and beyond, because I mean, they're going to be getting, of course, the different mineral aspect of that is going to be a big part of that as well. And of course, that's already being discussed of how that's going to impact a lot of stuff. So
exactly, pulling those minerals from Ontario and Quebec will certainly be on their mind as number one because of the short logistics requirements to get them to that battery plant in St. Thomas.
Yep, exactly. So interesting enough, this is like you mentioned, we always, it seems every time we do a podcast, we are talking about what is happening in Ontario as well as Canada, but just for manufacturing. So that being said, that now brings up to this as well, is the Cami plant in Ingersoll.
Yeah. So Cami is already producing now the Bright Drop Zevo 600. They're going to be soon producing also the smaller version, the Zevo 410. And now basically to increase production at the facility, they're expanding it to add battery pack manufacturing there as well too, so they can assemble the packs there on site at Cami as well too. So again, further investment by the major auto manufacturers into Ontario, into future electrification. It's fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, just and this of course can be a windfall as these plants start to arrive. It's the spin-off jobs and the realizing that these manufacturers are starting to realize, hey, it's working. We've got the workforce. They know what they're doing. We're getting a good production off the line, and they look at expansion. And this is one of those stories where they're saying, how can we improve the efficiency of this plant? And by building a sister plant beside it to help get those batteries in place helps us with our logistics. So this is going to happen all over the place with these new plants coming into play.
And most people don't realize, but Ontario is one of the largest automotive producers in the world. We are leaders in automotive automation, and so there's a huge amount of expertise here in Ontario. And by having these investments here, that's just going to enhance the expertise we have here today more into the electrification front. So,
which is where we need to go.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I'm loving the Bright Drop Zevo 600, large cargo van with 400 kilometers of range. I just look at that and I'm like, okay, put some solar panels on top, get a nice outfit of kitchen cupboards and a bed in the back, and there you go. You got a nice little hotel travel wise to go with. So
I should have made that a story. There's a company already doing that.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah, it doesn't surprise me.
They actually have an agreement with the GM, and you can rent them. They're like luxury camper Zevo 600s.
Yeah. That's awesome, and I'm sure that we're going to be seeing lifestyle videos coming from those type of things, and how people find them overall for travel and that too. So this is great to see. Again, there's so much going on in Ontario, and that we're getting this much back into the manufacturing. We're keeping up with the current technology, with what's happening currently, and moving forward. All right, so this is not so much manufacturing in Ontario, of course, but a very interesting article, and this is a big one. Like, we've done so many podcasts and showing, we've got, of course, the cars are electric, we've got the trucks electric, we got now the cargo vans and that. We've talked about transport trucks. We've got into the mining machinery being electrified. And now, of course, this is the big one, is where do we go when it comes to planes? And of course, one of the aspects of the planes also was, a hydrogen hybrid aspect of things, or a gas hybrid as well. So this is interesting that, CATL, which is one of the major battery producers in the world, and they've got a new energy density of 500 watt hours per kilogram, which is incredible. Now, it's roughly double the Tesla 4680, which I also did a little thing came out today, and where they're at with their battery as well. So that'll be interesting to see. I think that we're going to see Tesla's, watt hours per kilogram is also going to go up as well, because the technology, they just hired someone recently actually to, I guess you could say, touch up some of the loose ends and get a few of the things going that way. But the big thing, potentially hitting 600 to 700 miles on a single charge is huge. It's still, of course, nothing compared to when we do regular fuel on an airplane. But even 600 to 700 miles, short haul flights, Toronto to Montreal, that type of thing. I think that's some potential that we do have on that.
Yeah, absolutely, Ian. I mean, as batteries continuously evolve, I mean, we've been seeing a continuous evolution of batteries. Just thinking going back 10 years ago, where we saw battery technology back then to where it is today, the energy density has just gone down, and the cost of or energy density has come up, and the costs have just plummeted. So now we're seeing, as better and better batteries come out, obviously the usage cases and what they can do is just going to improve. And the vast majority of flights today are, probably in that 600-700 mile range. That probably covers a huge amount of flights today in the aviation world. So yeah, you might not be able to cover all usage cases and some of the long haul flights, but this will cover a big chunk of it. So they're definitely a potential viable product.
Yeah, it's just that it seems that we're getting more and more battery announcements as time goes along. Different materials, different densities. This is all because the manufacturers have really switched to the mindset that electrification is here and it's going to be expanding, and we've got to find a way to be more competitive. So more and more minds are being put on the task of improving energy density and driving down those costs. So just like we've seen with solar, battery prices are going to continue to drop in the foreseeable future, and energy density is going to increase, and that's a win for consumers.
Yeah. I want to see one of these in a gyrocopter. I don't know if either of you have been up in a gyrocopter, but I have. I have gone up on. A friend who actually teaches it. It's incredible, a machine. It's actually one of the safest air machines. But I look at the 600 miles. I'm like, wow, that 6-hour drive to the cabin could now be like maybe an hour and a half, 2 hours with a gyrocopter and one of these battery packs. So there we go. But anyways, it's incredible to see where we're getting with this stuff, and I think it's only going to keep improving. All right. Critical minerals. This is a big one, of course. And Canada, we've got a great opportunity here.
Yeah, this is nothing new. Beating the same drum again. This report, and of course all the articles we touch upon in the episode will be linked in the show notes that you can access at any time that you wish. But this article just was kind of highlighting about Canada having this fantastic resource in many of the provinces throughout Canada that have these what they call critical minerals, or rare earth minerals are sometimes are aligned to as well. But Canada has got this stuff, and of course the big difference between Canada and some other nations that have this is that we're part of the G7. We treat our people respectively. We have labor laws. We have free trade deals. And of course, we have ethics. And that is something that a number of the nations that have this as well cannot atone to. They have no leg to stand upon on those issues. So Canada, as we've been seeing, is getting a great deal of press, the world press, when it comes to these minerals. How do we set up these batteries? How do we get the minerals in them? Well, you've got yourself a grade A trade partner that will be able to provide these minerals to you. And more development is happening as Canadian mining companies are looking in. We've got the map. We know where the reserves are. It's just that to this point, it hasn't been economical to pull them out of the ground. And now that they're in higher and higher demand, it becomes economical, and we can move ahead with opening new shafts and mines. We can move ahead with sourcing a new site, and these type of things are happening all the time. And as this article indicates, the 6 ones that we have a lot of course, are lithium, graphite, nickel, cobalt, copper, and the rare earth metals. So again, and it's not even just in one province. It's multiple provinces that have these reserves. So this is a great thing. We may not have all the logistics in place. There may not be enough rail. There may not be enough road to truck and rail this stuff out to certain areas, but that's going to build itself as these minerals become more and more in high demand, as we can see it happening.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I couldn't have said it better, Mark. And one of the biggest arguments that I hear today too from some people is, well, mining takes a lot of resources and can have its own sort of dirty side to it as well too. But at the end of the day, we need to build that circular economy, and there's a huge amount of battery recycling now happening as well too, and a lot of companies putting that in. And on top of that, there's better sustainable mining practices that are happening, and there are ways to mitigate that. And we don't need perfect; we need sustainable. And people confuse the two right now. Some people sit there and think, or they're always looking for perfect. They're always looking for that negative. And it's like, yeah, there's some negatives, but we don't need perfect. We need sustainable. We need something we can do long term and sustainable.
Mm-hmm. And I'm glad you mentioned that, Eric. The circle of recycling when it comes to batteries and the ability to, when they're out of their life cycle after 15, 20 years. There are secondary markets that the battery pack can be used in for energy storage. And if that's not viable, it can be ground up and put back into the separate piles of what they started as and be reintroduced into a new battery. So unlike traditional mining, where you mine a resource, use the resource, it can only be done once, such as, I don't know, oil. This is a different scenario, because this stuff can be used for a period of time, and then after that, it can be either repurposed or recycled into new packs. And that's going to be a big plus as time goes along, that we'll be able to grab the copper, the cobalt, the graphene, the lithium, and pull it back into new packs and not have to mine it for the secondary use. Now, that won't be for a while, because, of course, battery packs are lasting 15, 20 years. But as those EVs come offline, nobody's going to be putting those packs into landfills. They're going to recycling plants to be re-put into new battery packs. So big plus.
Yeah, exactly. And a few podcasts back, we had shown there was a university in the States that was taking lithium and pulling it and recycling it and actually purifying it to the point that the new battery pack was better than what it originally was put into. And that's a big part of this as well. So, I've always kind of had the argument of, all energy has a consequence, but the big difference, Mark, as you pointed out, is that, it's not burned once in a completely inefficient, archaic engine that, quite honestly, is at its limit. It can't really get any more efficient, and the fuel that we're putting into it is gone. Whereas with this, it's like, no, it's just going to be constantly having that recycled aspect of it. And the thing is too, is as more renewables are being put online that are going to be charging this, and now the renewables, we're starting to see that we can do the same thing with recycling with renewables. So the whole positive loop that is happening is really, you can't deny it, that this is a much better and more efficient system for us to use with our energy. Especially too, as you also mentioned about the G7 aspect of things, and, being a little more conscientious of the human impact of things. How many times do we hear, get sent an article about the cobalt mining in Congo and children with slave labor, and it's like, you can't deny it. It has happened. Is it still happening? I don't think it's happening to the point that it's been made out in the articles, but we are shifting away from that, and we're even shifting away as well with batteries that aren't even using cobalt. More and more of that is also being shown. So, no, this is awesome, and time will tell. Yeah. All right. Moving on here. Talking now more of production, but out in Nova Scotia.
Yes, so some investments into Nova Scotia, which I like to see this as well too, because Nova Scotia is not known as a big manufacturing province. In fact, Michelin is one of the biggest exporters in Nova Scotia, which is something I just learned when I saw this article as well too. I thought was kind of interesting, and it's good to see that Michelin is doubling down, making that investment to make more environmentally friendly tires that are EV specific. So they're made with rubber compounds that are a bit lower rolling resistance and a bit more sustainable as well too. And it's good to see that they're making that investment here in Canada.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's interesting that everything is starting to turn to EVs now. Like when it relates to tires, this article is talking about specifically EV tires because it's not a huge difference in them. I think that over time all tires are just going to be tires, but at this point when there's so much EV in the news, Michelin is quick to say we're making EV tires. Like that's and there may be a little bit of a different production to them, but and as we know, EV tires wear out a little bit quicker, so that's a plus for tire manufacturers, and it's also an opportunity for them to change their formulas a little bit, to do some more testing to see if they can come up with a tire compound that lasts a little bit longer on a heavier car, such as an EV.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think I think in some respects you're right about Michelin. Hey, EVs are all over in the news. Let's get this out there. But I think the big thing too is that they're getting funding. This is where end of the month we got our tax bills due, and this is where I look and go like, okay, my tax dollars are kind of going to something like this, which I can put my, I agree with this. I think this is a good thing to see overall. The one area too is like they're looking for plans to reduce road noise, and of course, wintertime, when we put our winter tires on, that's when I really notice the noise in the car that much more. I absolutely hate driving winter tires on an electric vehicle because it's there, and so hopefully that's something they can definitely help to improve upon.
Yeah, and yeah, to your point there, Mark. This is a little bit of marketing going on. I think tire manufacturers have been trying to make more efficient tires for years. They used to have the Fuel Max tires and all that kind of stuff. So basically EV specific tires is basically a similar idea now, just maybe designed with a little bit higher weight rating into it.
Yeah.
And then to your point there, Ian, you talked about the taxes and stuff like that. Most people don't realize that, this will retain a lot of jobs and spin-off jobs and expertise in these areas. And these people will be tax-paying people. So there's a return on investment with these types of things. So while there's tax dollars going into keeping Michelin in Nova Scotia and making these upgrades, at the same time, they're going to be jobs for a long period of time, and the government's going to make some of that money back.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So it's a good thing overall. Yeah. All right. Here we go. Walmart. It's funny how many podcasts have we done where it was 7-Eleven was our last podcast where they put in their own charging network, and then Couche-Tard was I think the one before that, and then of course I think we talked about I think was it Couche-Tard in Norway as well, I think.
Yeah, Circle K in Norway.
Or Circle K, yeah. So of course now we got Walmart jumping on and saying that they're going to be looking at putting more charging stations in. Now I love this fact of the 10 miles of approximately 90% of Americans that there's a Sam Club or a Walmart. And yeah, it's a good thing, overall to offer this ability for charging, for people that go and shop there. I'm thinking in some respects too, My parents, that when they drove to Mexico, and especially when my mom went by herself driving down, staying at a Walmart parking lot was a big thing overnight. A lot of times you would see the RVs, campers, and all that sort of stuff. And you know what? If they have the charging there, I could see this being part of that as well.
Yeah, it's interesting that this article is outlining that Walmart will be producing their own branded chargers. So we all know that Electrify America has had deal with Walmart for a few years now, where they've been installing packs of chargers in Walmart parking lots. Well, Walmart's obviously been watching this and has started to see the writing on the wall with more and more EVs charging in their parking lots. And they've decided that they're going to move forward and make it a Walmart charging location by doing some branding, maybe putting up some advertising, trying to add some more charging stalls. I just hope that and I don't know if they're partnering with Charge America or with another brand, but I hope they do their homework on reliable chargers, ones that are fast and reliable and that can be maintained, because that is the key part of this program. Announcing it is easy. It's making sure that they're up and available and operating at all times. Or that service is quick if there is a problem. That's the trouble when it comes to charging locations. So I hope Walmart has been watching the game that they've been sitting out of until now.
Yeah.
Yeah. When we did our road trip down to Florida back in 2019, that was in the Bull TV. We stopped at a lot of Electrify America stations, and we spent a fair bit of time in Walmart's basically. But people harp on it and stuff like that. But they were open late. They had clean washrooms, and you could grab a drink or whatever you wanted to as well too. So they were, reasonably convenient for the trip and stuff like that. So,
yep, yeah, it worked out pretty good.
Yeah.
And of course, they're saying they got a new store in Montreal that would have EV charging. So, you know what, you kind of let the cat out of the bag. If you're going to do it in Montreal, I'm sure that they're going to be putting it in Canada, all the Walmarts eventually. It just makes sense.
Yeah.
Even Iron Needle's Walmart, if you look on the roof, it's chock full of solar panels. So to me, it's a no-brainer that they're going to do this.
Yeah. And, a lot of Walmarts are located in areas where there's apartment buildings and stuff sometimes as well too. So that can help with people who are maybe don't have access to charging at home as well. So
Exactly.
Yeah. All right. So from Walmart to IKEA.
IKEA in the news again. This time IKEA has invested in some properties to install additional EV chargers in Ontario and Quebec. And this story is centering around the Ottawa area. These particular chargers were installed in stores in and around Ottawa. And the other cool feature of this story is that it's not just putting in a few more chargers, but they're now having a purpose that IKEA can use electrified delivery trucks to use these chargers and start delivering some of those furniture purchases that people make at those stores with their own delivery trucks. So they've made a purchase of a number of these class, it's not, I forget the class 6 or 7, I believe. Class 8 is the largest truck. I think this is probably a class 6. But this box truck is produced by Lion, which of course is another Quebec-based EV manufacturer of trucks. So IKEA is paired up and purchased some trucks from this Quebec company, and they're now using those trucks to deliver some of their products around the Ottawa area with some new chargers that they've installed at their stores. Talk about full circle. Like this is a group that had come to the EV game early, providing EV chargers, L2s to begin with, for some of their customers. And they did this across Canada. And then over time, they added some DC fast charging to certain locations. And now it shows that they're really walking they're walking the walk when it comes to EVs, because they're starting to invest in some delivery vehicles that are all electric as well. So again, more writing on the wall for other retailers to see and to see how it's being done right. So fantastic. Hats off to IKEA, and I wish them much success.
Mm-hmm. I think, we've talked about 7-Eleven, Circle K, Couche-Tard, Walmart, now IKEA, and now I'm going to go knock, knock, knock. Hello, Costco. Hello, Costco. Because when Costco opened up in Waterloo, a bunch of us had messaged and said, hey, this is a great opportunity for you to put in some electric chargers. You're putting in the gas stations, but where's the electric car charger? And of course, we were, for most part, it's like a nice little response letter, but nothing said about that. And I think Costco is missing out on a great opportunity that they could be doing the exact same thing on this. But no, for IKEA, I'm actually happy. I put an IKEA kitchen in last summer, so maybe part of my funds that I paid for the kitchen is part of this $300,000 investment, for electric charging. I'm all for it. This is awesome. So
I will mention something in your Costco information there, is that Costco was an early adopter of charging in the United States when the EV1 was released.
Oh, wow.
They provided in Southern California a number of their locations that had the paddle charging, which was a flat paddle.
Yep.
Now we have the J1772. Well, this was like a flat skillet that would slide into the charging spot, and that would charge the car. So Costco got involved with it really early, and of course, the EV1 program was folded prematurely, I would say, and along with some other cars, there was an S10 Chevy that was, and there was, I think there was a Ford Ranger, as well as a Toyota, and that program stopped and kind of left Costco high and dry with the money they had spent on a number of their locations. So they were probably a bit gun shy when it came to the resurgence of EVs. But I got to believe at this point, especially in California, they're getting the message loud and clear that this is not going to go away like it did in the first rollout of EVs.
Yeah.
And circling back to IKEA, hopefully, IKEA has been an early installer of EV charging in Ontario as well too. They had some charging stations pretty early on, though they also fell victim to having some chargers that maintenance was sometimes an issue, with maintaining them and keeping them up. So hopefully IKEA has learned their lessons from that, and hopefully they'll be installing some more reliable chargers that are easier to maintain, and then we can all go and have some meatballs while you wait to charge your car.
The only gas we want to get.
Yeah.
All right. So I found this really interesting, especially when people say to me like, there's no real interest in electric vehicles. It's this, it's that, blah, blah, blah. And yet, here we go. New Jersey, they actually had to halt their electric vehicle rebate because they had too much demand for it. And so they're actually running out of the money pretty quick, and because it's so popular. So they have dispersed $35 million for the fiscal year. It was up to $4,000 when they buy or lease a new electric vehicle. And the last point of this is like, a new poll released, many Americans aren't yet sold on going electric for their next cars. They, of course, were citing high prices and too few charging stations as the main deterrence. But again, we're showing that lithium prices, the battery prices, they're going down. Of course, Tesla, this week, with their recent finance report, and has also shown like they're reducing the price of their cars. They've done it numerous times already this year, and of course some investors and analysts are worried about the margin aspect. But so high prices, I don't think is becoming quite the same issue. And then, of course, the too few stations for as a deterrent. That comes down to, as far as I'm concerned, on the state. Because if you look in, for example, Montana, there's definitely pockets for charging along that area, especially like the northern border of the U.S., North Dakota. I hope I'm figuring out my map geography right, but when I look on there, yeah, it is bare, and I will say I have to agree with them on that point. But then, of course, you go to Florida and California, and the amount of charging is incredible that you can find down there. In fact, if anything, there's too many cars, not enough chargers in that respect. But either way, this is still, it's great to see for New Jersey, and hopefully they get this worked out if they have that much interest, and also for the auto manufacturers to see this as well.
Yeah, I think we're seeing a combination of factors right now. Part of it also too is that there's sort of an EV price war going on. You mentioned about the Tesla Model Y, Model 3 that has decreased in costs, and then of course Ford has also decreased the cost of their Mach-E. So there's a little bit of an EV price war going on right now, and then there's been a rejigging of the tax credits in the U.S. So for a period of time right now, a lot of vehicles that didn't qualify before now qualify, like many of the Tesla vehicles, and vehicles like the Bolt EV and stuff now fully qualify for the $7,500 U.S. federal tax credit. So I think that's really driven the demand in the short term, and obviously that's pushed beyond New Jersey, what New Jersey budgeted for their program. So.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, certainly that $7,500 credit in the U.S. has driven a lot of investment from manufacturers and companies, and caught the attention of consumers, knowing that the price that they used to pay could drop by up to $7,500 off an EV of their liking. So it drove a lot of people to get involved with it while the getting was good. So now this particular tax credit that was put in place will last 10 full years. So this is not going to disappear at any time in the near future. And of course, people will start to that aren't involved with EVs are going to start to get the message from their friends and coworkers and family members that this is available to them as well. So I see demand for all EVs skyrocketing. It just seems to be that the world has caught on, and we are now on the other side of that hill that we've been climbing for so long, and now the momentum is starting to push us downhill, and we're going faster and faster with demand.
Yeah, it's great to see for sure on that. Yeah. All right, this is a article I find very exciting because all three of us, of course, have seen SWTCH Energy and gotten to know them, and I love this stealth testing that they've been doing on this.
Yeah, absolutely. This is a fantastic program. Again, one of the biggest challenges today is there's lots of people who live in high density condos and apartments. Some of these condos and apartments have older infrastructure, not a lot of high grid capacity or excess grid capacity in many of these buildings. But SWTCH has developed a program that can, in real time, see the load demand on these buildings and then portion out charging to those individual vehicles based upon the available capacity of the systems. And in many cases, a lot of these vehicles are going to be charging overnight. So this is where you're going to have excess capacity in these buildings right now to charge these vehicles. But if by some off chance there's a huge spike in power, they can offset that with a smart system that reduces the charging to the cars and make sure that everything stays in check and we're not consuming too much power for the local grid connection. So it's a fantastic thing. And yeah, designing this in stealth is a good idea too, because they wanted to keep this hush hush and secret until they had a product that they felt is a little bit more marketable, and it looks like they're just about there. So
yeah, it's interesting that having a smart meter on the complete development, the complete condo or apartment building or whatever it is, and being able to switch the load to those cars quickly based on what's coming or what demand is for appliances or whatever in the apartment complex. That's a fantastic idea, to be able to just throttle down the cars for a while, and when that demand comes back, they can throttle up the cars as well, because they're monitoring in real time. So fantastic idea, and there certainly should be a lot of demand for this for customers, definitely.
And of course, being multi-tenant building, we're going to be looking at apartments, condos, and this is just, it's going to make it more feasible for a condo board to say, oh, okay, so this is how the system works. And, you know, it's, I think it's going to make it more difficult for them to say no to EV charging within their buildings, that once this type of system is put into place. One thing I also enjoyed about with this article is I noticed, of course, Skyline Group, which is a group that I'm actually partially invested in. And, you know, I remember seeing switch chargers at Forefathers Brewing, which is actually owned partly with the Skyline Group. And they were piloting these chargers, which have it's like a huge trailer, but it's got a battery pack in it as well with solar and then the charging. So they were playing around with some of these aspects as well. And the Skyline Group, quite honestly, one thing that has always really attracted me with this group is they also have a solar or a clean energy fund, they call it, but it has a lot to do with solar. So with their properties, they're looking always to kind of have cost-saving measures with the green aspect, but also anything they do as well can have potential of solar in doing that. So it didn't surprise me when I saw the two companies are kind of working together on this. So I think it's smart. I think it's got to have a huge impact on multi-unit buildings.
The other thing it might do is that a particular condo or apartment may, before this invention, be only willing to install 1 or 2 chargers based on what is available. Now with this, they can install 4 or 5 and still not run into an issue that they're going to be taking away demand from the apartment complex. If it can smart monitor it overnight, those 5 could be used no problem if it's monitored.
Yeah. And they also mentioned too, Mark, that on some of these things that can save close to $40,000 in infrastructure upgrades too for a lot of these facilities. So if they had to upgrade their infrastructure to put in EV charging, now they can put this in, and it's a much more affordable solution as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, all right. To finish the night off, we, of course, Mark and I were in Kitchener, and Eric's close by in Listowel, Project Arrow. And it was actually literally down the street from me. I went down there this morning and it had left already, unfortunately. Yeah. I was looking forward to just check this car out. They said, nope, sorry, it's gone. But the last point on this, for me, of course, being an audio engineer running a recording studio, I didn't know about this, but when I was doing a little research, is if you look on the right picture, what looks like kind of like, you drop a rock in the water and it's got the waves coming out. Those are actually, they're not speakers, they're just panels, but that is what they're using for the sound. And this is another reason I'm like disappointed, like, I would have loved to have heard what the sound is with this type of car, because it's a technology that's been used, I guess, other areas and that. But for me, it was just like, didn't know about that until doing some research. And I thought, oh, this is really cool.
Yeah, Project Arrow, we've reported upon a few different times on this podcast about it appearing at auto shows. And of course, its main purpose was to show the innovation and ability of Canadian manufacturers and how they can produce the parts and components that could actually combine to put together a brand new electric vehicle in the market. Obviously, this vehicle is not going to market as we see here, but this is more of a demonstration piece to show anybody that wants to build an electric vehicle that the know-how is here in Canada in all these different companies that build these parts independently and can custom build them for a manufacturer for a set purpose. In this case, a brand new SUV EV. So I hope it can introduce these Canadian manufacturers to some new audiences. With EVs being so hot, and of course many of the legacy manufacturers looking to get into more and more EV lines. Hopefully, it'll spark some interest in these different Canadian manufacturers.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this car showcases some of the Canadian manufacturers, but also showcases some of the innovations that are potential we may see in some other cars in the future too. So, to Ian's point on the speakers, there, it'd be interesting to see how these make their way into your traditional cars as well too, and how many other manufacturers pick this up.
Yeah.
And as it's not just parts, of course, it's software, it's operating systems. It's the complete deal. Everything that goes into making the car, all these different manufacturers combine to make this.
Yeah. I'm wondering now what the base response of this is going to be, being if the whole car can be basically the speaker cone structure. And, we already get these guys with their oomph on their bass, that we can hear 4 blocks away. Now the whole car is just basically a big speaker. It's gonna be interesting.
Yeah, they sell the car with noise canceling headphones because it's that.
Exactly.
So everybody else can hear your music except them.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Nice. All right, so there you go. That is tonight's slides. Fantastic.
I wanted to give a shout out. Ian and I, of course, yesterday attended the WISE Net Zero Sustainability event at University of Waterloo yesterday. WISE, I believe, stands for Waterloo Institute of Sustainable Energy. And that group puts on a symposium once a year. And this is their first one since the pandemic, which had a number of different speakers talking about transportation, talking about housing and sustainability, talking about different heating abilities like heat pumps, ground and air sourced. There was a variety. There must have been 15 different speakers at the event talking about these different issues. And I certainly want to thank them for inviting REVA to come out and to display some vehicles and asking me to present for 15 minutes. So that was fantastic. And we really appreciate being invited and had a great time.
Mm-hmm. And the food was good too. Food was very good. Mark, did you try the tofu? No, I don't think you did you?
I did. I tried it, yes.
Yeah. Okay.
It was okay.
Yeah. Flavored sponge.
Yeah, like a sponge. Exactly. And speaking of shout outs, Eric, do you happen to have anything? I know that you were in Mexico recently. Do you have anything to report?
One thing I found in Mexico, in Monterrey, is it's a very modern city, actually. There's actually quite a bit of money going into that city. And I was surprised to see how many electric vehicles are in Monterrey, especially high-end ones. I saw a lot of Porsche Taycans, Audi e-trons, and of course a fair number of Teslas. And Tesla was already advertising quite heavily in Monterrey. There was a lot of billboards up with the Nuevo Leon posters and stuff like that for Tesla. So it's
is that Tesla advertising or the Mexican government saying we got Tesla and a plant is being built?
I'm not sure which it is, but it could be one or the other, yes. But I know one of the big challenges that we were having there, and that Tesla's going to have as well too, is finding people. There's actually a huge shortage of people in Monterrey. Our company has 17 buses that bring in employees to the factory every single day, and from different parts of Monterrey. And we have massive shortages of people, massive turnover right now. So it's there's a huge competitive grab for talent in Monterrey right now. But it's a beautiful city in the mountains. Very scenic, very nice.
Just a question. I know that there's a lot of talk about water availability in Monterey. Does your plant have that issue as well? Or is there talk about that at the plant?
Not at none of the plant, there wasn't much talk about it, but I have certainly heard that Monterey is a city that is a potential water crisis city in the near future. So that is a concern, definitely, for Monterey as well, too.
Okay.
Right.
Very good. Ian, any shout outs from you?
Nothing comes off the top of my head, but I will say for Eric, habla español bien?
No? En otro cerveza, por favor.
Yeah, and donde está el baño? But no, that's really interesting to hear what you're saying about the amount of electric vehicles in Monterey, because of course, you know, and myself going to Mexico and having discussions with, you know, not so much Mexicans, but the Canadians, Americans, like, well, you know, electric vehicles, Mexico, yeah, that's not really happening. And where's the charging? And like, no, it's like, I know Guadalajara, Mexico City, of course, big major city centers, but Monterey, of course, is a large city center as well. Mm-hmm. So this is really interesting to see that this is happening. It's great to see, actually. And I actually, I'm not sure if you have pictures of the billboard with Tesla advertising, but I find that interesting because Tesla's always sort of like, we don't advertise, everything's word of mouth, but you know, it's Mexico. Anything happens down there, you know, with that.
If you happen to get a picture, Eric, we will share it on our social media feeds if you can come up with one.
I'll see if I can find one. I took a whole lot of pictures, so I'll have to see if I've got one. But
they need to have a billboard that says "Donde está el Tesla?"
Yeah,
which means where is the Tesla? And then underneath, underlay.
Yeah.
Zoom.
And one other thing I found interesting is when I was like, I used to travel to Mexico City a decent amount, and you know, Mexico City, you didn't see a lot of electric vehicles, but now Monterey is definitely, there's more money there. It's a wealthier city, but also what surprised me there was the price of gas in Monterey. In Canada, you know, we pay roughly $1.50 a liter, which equates to about 20 Mexican pesos a liter. But in Monterey, gas was around 24 pesos a liter. So that's like you know, $1.70, $1.80 Canadian a liter. So they pay more for gas than we do here.
Yeah.
So, you know, in a lot of cases, EVs are going to work for a lot of people in Monterey, and especially they have an air quality issue there too. So
yeah, that's a plus all the way around there. Like you see that with, you talk to some Americans and they don't really understand the price of gasoline in Canada, or in this case in Mexico, is so much higher. World. Yeah, like it's so much higher that having a low electricity cost and a high gasoline cost should make the transition to EVs that much faster, because it's fine. It just makes financial sense a lot quicker than it does in other places in the world.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And Eric, you're right. Like the 20 pesos, the last 2 trips I've done between 19 and 21 pesos per liter. And, you know, I had a rental car down there and it was just like, oh, you know, I learned how to do hypermiling with, because there's lots of hills. Put it in neutral, let it just coast down, you know, and do its thing.
Yeah. There's Ian being a menace on the roads in Mexico. Yeah.
It doesn't help that the start and stop traffic is not really, that's one thing. It's also the start and stop potholes and topes.
Potholes, and they love their speed bumps in Mexico.
Oh, the topes. Oh yeah.
Well, we want to thank everyone for watching this evening. If you haven't already, please give us a thumbs up on the video. Press that subscribe button and you'll be notified anytime we upload a episode immediately. And with that, we'd like to thank you, and we'll be back next month. And together we will see what's happening in the world of electrifying news. Thanks, everyone. Have yourselves a great evening.